What's up guys, Matt from footballboots.co.uk, and today we'll be attempting our biggest blackout ever. We'll be transforming the Launch Magista Obra II from its crazy colourway into a truly classic full blackout through using a few different products and techniques. Back to black, let's go. So as said, we've got a pair of the Launch Magista Obra II, which feature a Volt turquoise and pink blast paint job. It isn't to my own personal taste, so that's why we'll be blacking it out to create one of the classiest looking boots out there. It's going to be a pretty big job, as we'll need to dye the upper, fabric dye the fly knit collar, and then spray paint the sole plate. So make sure to watch throughout for a full look at how to achieve this stealth visual. We've taken the laces out, ready to apply the dye, and we're also only treating one boot, so we can compare our blacked out version against its original look. Let us know your favourite at the end of the video. If you've seen our blackout videos before, then you'll know that we'll be using a blackouts kit which includes different products, and step one involves using an acid which takes away the factory finish and allows for the dye to effectively set onto the upper. Using a cotton pad works best, and apply the acid all across the upper from heel to toe apart from the fly knit regions. After doing this, leave for a few hours to work properly, and now we're ready to paint the boot. Step 2 is dyeing the boots, and we're using a black liquid which comes in a box for its first layer of coating. Across the side panels, it's definitely best to gently and carefully stroke the black dye across the Nike Skin upper, and right from the start it's clear that the liquid is coating the boots really well. You don't need to apply the black dye onto the fly knit regions, as this is just absorbed really quickly and requires the fabric dye, which we'll do next. When dyeing the upper, it's good not to go right up to the sole plate at first. Instead, just leave a small gap we can go back to finish neatly after coating the majority of the boot. So to make the process more interesting, we're actually leaving the heat map areas alone to start with by going around the bright trim colours. As already said, the dye is working incredibly well on the Nike Skin upper, even after just its first coat. However, when the watery dye touches the fly knit, this is where we can see that it's been absorbed and requires the fabric dye coming next, which is much thicker. Leaving the heat map areas alone actually reminded us of the limited edition Predator eyes released a few years back. What do you think? The more textured detailing around the dimpled upper means that dabbing the brush in small movements is actually much better than stroking the brush across it like on the side panels. Using a finer brush or edge of the brush, this is when and how you can go back to neatly dye around the sole plate. Being ultra careful isn't overly essential if you're spray painting the sole like us, which we'll be doing later in the video. The final first coat of dye is coating the heel tab, which has Magista branding, and now the process is complete and it's been very successful. It's probably actually been one of the easiest and if not the best boot to dye so far, due to the textured and dimpled Nike Skin upper. Now just leave it overnight to fully dry. Coming in the next day, and the dye had set really well, and just to make sure it lasts a long time, we did a further second coat to reinforce the blackout job. All you'll be doing is replicating the exact process from the first layer of dye, just make sure every section is coated. Now finish 2 full sets of coating. This is how the boots look, and they're ready for step 3, where fabric dye is applied onto the fly knit areas. GAC 900 fabric medium and bone black fabric dye is what you need to mix 50-50 together to create a thinner dilution and apply it onto the exposed fly knit and dynamic fit collar regions. Mixing the products together creates a tile looking paste. However, this is essential to set onto the knitting material without being absorbed. We had never fabric dyed such an amount of knit before, so knowing how it would set was a little bit unknown until leaving it overnight after an entire first coating. We started at the bottom of the lace region and gradually coated it upwards. The fabric dye was actually working well for its first coat, however original Volt colours could still be seen, so another coat would definitely be needed after completing the entire areas and left overnight for a drying session. You'll find that you'll need to regularly coat the brush with fabric dye solution, as it doesn't run across the knit like normal dye on the Nike Skin upper. To create a full blackout, we're fabric dyeing the exposed knitted lace region and entire outside of the collar, whilst leaving the internal areas as normal. Once you've finished coated the fly knit, have a closer look to see if any areas have been missed, and if so, apply some smaller amounts of solution, and then you can leave to dry overnight. Here's a look against the original boot, and although the knitted areas definitely do need another coat, I think it's fair to say that we were on the right track to complete an all-out blackout. Checking the Magista Obra II the next morning, and the fabric dye solution had sunk into the knit and left a dark green tint, so it requires another coating of the fabric dye, which we can now see. Pulling apart the fly knit, and we can still see the original Volt and turquoise colourway, and it was clear that even after putting more fabric dye onto the collar, it would still remain two-tone within. Instead of sinking into the upper, the second coat of fabric dye actually did well by setting on top of the first layer, which is good. The only problem would be if the fabric dye makes the fly knit material lose its stretch, and we'll be assessing this with some on-feet sections later. The previous dark green colour seen after the first fabric dye coating is now becoming much more blackout and won't require a third layer. So the boot has now had 2 layers of dye and 2 layers of fabric dye. However, the knitting material needs to be given heat to ensure it sets fully into and onto the exposed fly knit. The simplest way to do this is by using a hairdryer on a hot setting and holding it close to areas which look wet, which become dry and less shiny. We did this for approximately 2 to 3 minutes, and the shiny looking knit becomes more matte looking due to it becoming drier and the fabric dye actually setting into the material itself. So here's how the boot looks, and the colour is pretty much solid blackout. However, there's definitely a point to say how the knit looks stiffer than before, but as said, we'll be trying them on later in the video to check how they fit. Step 4 just involves applying the final finish to seal the black dye on the Nike Skin upper, which we've done using a cotton pad and gently wiping across the boot apart from the exposed knitting material, as this has been fabric dyed and heat treated. Step 5 is preparing the Volt sole plate to be spray painted into black by using painter's tape to go around the entire upper where it meets the outsole. Taping around the entire sole plate as neatly as possible with shorter and longer pieces depending on what part of the outsole you're taping. Once going around the boot with tape, give it a final press down to ensure the spray paint doesn't seep underneath and affect the dyed upper. So we're now ready to spray paint the boot in step 6, and what we're using to do this is just a standard metallic black spray paint. Holding the can about 15 centimeters away to start with, and we're coating the majority of the sole plate before moving in closer to spray accurately around individual studs. If you want to stay clean, then you can definitely wear some gloves or hold the boots with paper, but you don't actually need to use that much spray paint as it can become wet and start dripping off, which leaves an uneven finish. Double checking the sole plate means that the entire sole plate has been painted to create the overall blackout look. Finish the spray painting section, and again you'll need to leave overnight to fully dry. Ready to peel off the tape, and the first looks of the newly painted sole plate is absolutely class. The new matte finish is ultra smooth and premium with its subtle sparkle, and no doubt looks so much better than being Volt beforehand. So to finish off the boot, you can now slowly peel away the tape, and there doesn't seem to be any marks left by the tape as seen on our previous Pure Control video. This is probably because the black dye took to the Nike Skin upper much better compared to the Pure Control's Prime Knit version. Taking off the tape, and there's definitely some small areas which you can go over with a Sharpie if you want the best quality finish. Comparing the Blackout Obra IIs with our Blacked Out Superfly 5, which boot do you prefer? And also, do you prefer the new black look or the original Magista look? So here's how the boots look on feet, and we've put the original Volt laces back in, which looks really slick against the new black paint job. As previously mentioned, we thought the fabric dyed fly knit would affect the stretch, and there's definitely a case to say that the material is now slightly thicker and has lost some of its softness. However, the fit is still pretty standard. For me, I actually prefer the look of the new Blackout, especially because I wasn't a fan of the launch colourway. What do you think? Let us know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Cheers.